on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. Hope you're having a great night. Very interesting topic tonight. We're tackling what can be a tough issue, talking about the separation of church and state, and specifically religion in schools. There was an incident in Robertson County in which some football players were baptized on the football field right after practice. The county schools has said this happened outside of school time, but there you see some pictures. They were baptized on the football field. The coaches were present, the team was present. It happened after practice. Now, there's a national organization that has filed a complaint against Robertson County. And again, Robertson County is defending its school and saying this happened. No one was made to go there. It happened after school hours. But it raises this question. And so we thought we'd get into it tonight. And we are happy to have with us Felicia Powers. She is with the Sunday Assembly of Nashville. And you are a secular community organizer. Is that right?
I am a volunteer, yes.
A volunteer.
Yes.
So explain what that means. You're an atheist, right?
I do not believe in the supernatural.
And so what do you think about, you just saw this, we're talking about this in Robertson County. What are your thoughts? Just off the top of your head here, what are your thoughts?
Well, I identify as an atheist now, but I've spent more time of my life on the opposite side of the coin as a believer. And so I think past Felicia would be pleased that these people felt empowered to make that kind of personal choice. But I would also question why it had to take place at a public school. The separation of church and state is a constitutionally settled matter. So I feel like that distinction is important to make. And honestly, I genuinely feel that present Felicia and past Felicia would agree on that, you know, we probably don't need to be baptizing kids at school.
So this, the complaint was filed by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. This is a national nonprofit.
Okay. My friends.
Do you know of them?
I do.
So you know of them. And they said this is especially problematic in the context of athletics, given the coercive pressure players feel to conform to coaches' expectations so as not to disappoint coaches or hurt their standing on the team. That's part of what they had to say. Now, again, Robertson County said this happened, they've looked into this, it happened outside of school hours. And they found nothing wrong. But what is the problem? So if someone says, what's the problem? It did happen outside of school hours. You know, they're getting baptized. What's wrong with that? You know, what do you say?
Well, what's wrong with that is several things. What's wrong with that is that it happened on school grounds, and it happened in conjunction with a school-sponsored activity. And whether they say, well, this was after practice, it was in conjunction with that practice. And so it's not, I don't think it's fair to say, well, it wasn't a school-sponsored activity. It was in conjunction with the practice. We can't deny that. But truly, the problem with it for me isn't necessarily even the Christianity of it. The problem is involving any sort of religious influence in our public spaces. That is a clear distinction that needs to be made. And I think that after we talk about it for a while, that's something that hopefully believers will come to agree with me on, because I think that why a believer might be excited to hear this news and think it's wonderful that these children made a decision for their personal lives. Excuse me. Also, believers need to consider that if we allow space for Christian religious tradition in our public education system, we need to be fair and allow space for other faith traditions in our public education system. So if these parents that are happy and encouraged that their children have a character coach who is a local pastor who serves on the football team as a character coach. And if these parents are pleased by that, I think they should also be adequately pleased if a local imam would to come and to offer their services. And if perhaps those students felt so inspired by the faithfulness of that person and what their spiritual walk meant to them, that they started investigating the religion of Islam, then those parents would have to support that too, wouldn't they? I feel like that's a mess that maybe we don't need to get involved in. Instead, let's just keep all faith traditions away from our public education, keep it clean and easy. Because the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we are guaranteed freedom of religion for all people. Freedom of religion must also include freedom from religion, or it's no freedom at all.
Mm-hmm. And now, if people were to say, and you've probably heard this, part of the problem we've seen recently is that we've taken religion out of our schools. And boy, wouldn't it be better if we had it in our schools and kids were learning some of these values. They're not learning these values today. What do you say? What do you say about that?
Well, I blame the parents, and I say that as a parent. I mentioned previously this minister that comes that performed the baptism. He volunteers as a character coach. They call him, that's his position on the team.
That's right, in Robertson County.
That's
right.
A valid position to have on the team. I would like to counter that with saying that every single teacher and staff member and volunteer at that school is a character coach. As a mother, when I send my child to school, I am expecting the staff to uphold the kind of character that they expect to see out of my child. So I'm not sure that we need an outside character coach to come in. We're all character coaches. There's no special superpower that a pastor has to be a character coach that an everyday, ordinary human with a good heart doesn't already have.
And you said, of course, this opens the door that if some other faith wanted to do something, then it would also have to be allowed.
You bet.
And you would speak out against that. I mean,
you bet.
Because it's not just Christianity, I guess, right? Your concern is with all of it.
I don't want anybody brainwashing my kid. Anybody. I don't want any flavors of religion. Now, it was really important to myself, my husband, when we had our child, that he was able to grow and learn about various faith traditions and make up his own mind. And I think that it's important for us to be respectful of our children as humans and to encourage their own personal development in that way. And I don't think it's necessary to uphold one certain specific faith tradition as superior to others in order for a child to receive positive character influence in life.
What if you're told, or I'm sure someone is saying, we're a Christian nation, but we were founded on Christian values. What about that?
Well, I would have to refer those people to history books. America's not a theocracy. It wasn't founded as a theocracy. It's a myth that America was founded as a Christian nation. America was founded as a secular nation, including freedom for all people, and that's essential. So there have been volumes written on the topic. It's a myth and an American fallacy that America was founded as a Christian nation with biblical principles guiding our foundation. That historically doesn't stack up.
Now, Robertson County said again, all participation was voluntary, no requirement for attendance, either stated or implied. And so again, if it happened after school hours, it was all voluntary participation, what would be the problem with it?
You guys have heard of peer pressure, you know? They say that it wasn't coerced, that nobody was forced, but these are student athletes. The heart of a student athlete is someone who strives to achieve, strives for success, and part of that success is reflected back in their praise, and that is how they're perceiving their success. So a student athlete participating in something extra, maybe that they don't believe in, but they would receive praise for, that's some coercion. That's peer pressure. And honestly, it's disappointing because I feel like it's worse than peer pressure from fellow children. This is pressure from someone in a position of authority that the children are meant to respect and listen to. And that authority was used to encourage
a specific behavior.
Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I bet there are people out there who are going, what in the world? And they wonder your background. And I'm interested in your background. So you said at one point you were in Bible college, and you've kind of, you're not there now.
No.
And so I guess for people who, again, they're out there saying, there's nothing wrong with this, we need more of this in our society. Who is this person to come and talk about this? Let's talk a little bit about your background. Your background is what? How did you get to the point of where you're talking about this and willing to come on this show and talk about it?
Well, I was raised in the Midwest. I'm a Chicago native. I was raised in a mixed faith family. My father was agnostic. My mother was Roman Catholic until she converted to fundamentalism, a fundamentalist Baptist, when I was 4 years old. And my father was a peacemaker and chose to choose his battles, figured it wouldn't hurt to have his children go to church, participate in positive character education. You know, you don't think anything bad is going to happen at church to your kids, right? And I guess technically nothing bad happened to me. I wasn't a victim of assault or anything horrible related to the church, but I was a victim of what I consider emotional and spiritual coercion. My personality is such that I very much wanted to be accepted and thought of as a good person, and so I kind of followed all the rules and made all the right moves because I wanted to be a good person. So much so that I wanted to go and tell other people about Jesus, and so I went to Bible college to be a missionary. And it was when I was studying the scripture and giving myself the freedom to interpret and process what I was learning and what it meant to me, that was the catalyst that took me away from the faith entirely. I spent several years studying various faith traditions throughout history as well as modern ones, and all of that study was actually at the urging of a former pastor who told me it was my responsibility to work out my own salvation with fear and trembling. Now, if you've read the Bible, you know that's from Philippians. And I took that to heart, and I certainly did. And I worked out my salvation real good. And came out without any belief in the supernatural at all. And I don't think that I have all of the answers for everybody, but I know that I have my answers for myself.
How was it received? So if you came from a family where you went to church, then you go off to Bible college, and then you come back an atheist, how was that received?
I didn't come back an atheist straight out of Bible college. I came back with more questions than I had answers. And the process of me completely removing myself from any faith traditions was something that it took some time. I think for a lot of people who go through that experience of doubting, questioning, and eventually deciding that they don't have any faith, that's not an overnight switch. That is a long process of a lot of doubt and introspection and research, and honestly, a lot of prayer. A lot of prayer. It just eventually gets to the point where you realize that what you're talking to is nothing because you're not getting any answers.
Is it, and we'll get back to the Robertson County thing, but people may have these questions. Is it, it's not anger then. It was after a time of reflection, this is just your conclusion. Is that a fair statement? Some people might think,
Absolutely.
oh, there's something bad that happened and it makes you angry.
No.
But that's not it.
No.
And
No, I don't hate God. I mean, it would be silly. It's completely illogical. You can't hate that which cannot exist. But I don't hate God. I don't have any ill will or hatred toward religion. I know that out there in the world, there's this stereotype of the angry atheist. So I'm sorry if you guys thought you were going to get that girl. I'm not that girl. I'm not an angry atheist. I'm just a human trying to do her best. With the limited time that I have here.
And so back to what we're talking about with separation of church and state, religion in schools, there are those again who would say, boy, we're adrift morally, and wouldn't something like this, wouldn't Christianity, some degree of Christianity, wouldn't that help with some of the problems that we face in our moral sort of adriftness? And I asked it a little before, but what about that? What about bringing some religion back into schools? Could that help if we do all kind of believe? I think we can all say there's concern out there about where things are going. Mm-hmm. Would this not help in some way to bring back some of this, just focus on morals and that kind of thing?
Well, I don't think that religion has a monopoly on goodness or positive character. I don't think that religion has a monopoly on moral standards. I am an atheist, godless heathen, but I still have incredibly high moral and ethical standards. I believe in telling the truth. I believe in following the law. I believe in being loyal. I believe in a lot of things that have nothing to do with any kind of faith experience. So I don't believe that including a faith tradition is necessary to encourage the kind of positive character that we want to see out of our students.
Okay, and then my last thing, then we're going to start taking calls. And thank you. All right, why not just go out and live whatever life you want to live? You know what I mean? So you said, I tell the truth and I have morals. And I think some might question, well, if there's no God, there's no consequence after death, why do that? So what is it that is the guide? Why do you have those principles if you feel like there's nothing after this life?
Well, because I feel that there's nothing after this life is what drives those principles. Because I believe that I'm only going to get one shot at this. Every day after it's gone, it's expired. I'm never going to get it back. There's no eternal bliss waiting for me after I die. I get one shot. I don't know how many trips I'm going to get around the sun, but I know that I want to do my absolute best while I have them. I know that nobody's coming to save me. I know that if I mess up, it's on me. And if I mess up and hurt somebody else, I need to seek their forgiveness and not Sky Daddy, So that is what drives my moral character. Knowing that my time is limited. Knowing that there isn't an afterlife for me. I'm not going to live forever. The only thing that's going to live forever after I'm gone is the legacy that I've left behind in this world. And so that's why I choose to live the way I live.
All right, well, thank you for sharing all that. And again, what we're talking about is separation of church and state, the situation that happened in Robertson County. That kind of sets the table, though. I appreciate hearing from you. Now we want to hear from all of you. There's the number, 615-737+, 615-737-7587. What are your thoughts about baptism after a football practice in Robertson County? What are your thoughts about anything we just talked about? Take a break. Be back right after this.